Opposed? None is carried. Thank you. We did have an in-camera meeting prior to this, and we touched on personnel and property matters. And we will be returning to our in-camera agenda after our public meeting this evening. On to presentations and delegations, I'd like to welcome Bob Bush with respect to the Challenge Program.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. If I might, I represent as the voice of a group of parents whose children are part of the Challenge Program. And as you know from previous meetings and presentations, many of us are concerned about the proposed cuts in funding of the Challenge Program. We believe will have a significant impact on our children and children that are coming into this program in the future. And so I was asked if I could speak tonight on their behalf. That's what I would like to do. I can advise that it is our wish, what we are asking the board to do, is to reverse its decision to cut funding for the Challenge Program and to maintain the same level of funding for the Challenge Program that has been in place over the past year. I am 52 years of age. I'm a lawyer now. I was a teacher as well. And when I was a child in the elementary school program, there were no Challenge programs offered or gifted to kids or any child really. Except in Vancouver, there was a woman there named Lynn Hancock. And she began a program there at the very beginning when they first started to realize that there were certain kids that didn't quite learn in the same way as other kids, who, if they were given great opportunities or were dealt with in a different way, would flourish. And I was having a terrible time as a child in school, and eventually this person, Lynn Hancock, saw me and took me into that program, and it served me well throughout my entire education. And the reason I tell you that story is because I speak from the heart when I say that. Of the group of friends that I was with who didn't get into the Challenge program, many of them were lost along the way. They either died, or they became criminals, or they didn't make it. And I truly believe in my heart that that special teacher had not taken that moment to see me and identify me and take me into that special program, I too could have run that very serious risk of falling away. And that's the case for many of these kids. If we reduce the Challenge program, if we cut the funding for it, we take some of the brightest children, the most gifted children, who require special education in a sense to accommodate their special learning needs, and we put them at risk. It takes nothing for the board, really, to look at its budget and to find the money, because we know, what we were told earlier, that there is about $300,000 in funds that were discovered or became available. We're only asking for a small part of that to maintain the status quo with respect to Challenge. As parents, we are now organizing the Challenge program. We'd like the opportunity next year to actually ask for more funding for Challenge, to expand the program to the high school, where they need to be fully supported as well. The board has the ability. The money is there to fund this program fully and to not cut it. I understand, as does everybody here, about the importance of having a rainy day fund and trying to hold back some reserve money. But you know what I've heard everywhere today is about the provincial government cutting the funding, that there's nothing available for these kids. Well, if there was ever a time when it was raining, it's right now. It's trying to use the funds that are available to finance the education that these kids need. All of us, all of the parents, are so worried that the cuts that are proposed, the changes, the reductions in the program will have such a profound effect on our kids that we're quite concerned about how they will manage to continue to cope and survive. So far, it has been, in everybody's case, everyone I've talked to, all the emails that have come in, the Challenge program has been what we view as a lifesaver for these kids. It's something very unique and very important. If a child does not succeed because the available resources are not applied, both literally and appropriately, then the child is not failed. The child is being failed. board has the ability to not let that happen. You do not have to review all of the budget cuts or the budget decisions that have been made in order to rethink how you're going to fund challenge. You do not have to do that, because there are additional funds available. All that has to happen here is the decision has to be made to support those kids who are gifted. To support those kids that are gifted, it just means saying, you know what, we can find the money to maintain status quo. Back several weeks ago, I spoke to the board, and at that time I had asked for some information about research and the decision about how the program was going to be changed and cut. And I can advise the board that I have not received any information whatsoever. I left my business card and I did not receive any information. No research data was provided to me, nothing. I can also say that I asked a question about the consultation process that was embarked upon with the parents of challenged kids prior to this decision being made. My child has been in the challenge program for 3 years now, and of all the parents that I talked to, there was no consultation. No one came to us, the parents of the kids that were in the elementary school programs who are going to move to the secondary program, to ask us about our opinions on how things were going. We speak for those children because we are the adults, and yet nobody came to us now. Before cuts are made, before the program is changed, it is my sincere belief that there should be consultation in that regard. That's what I can say. I know that you've all heard advice to speak eloquently about the challenge, about gifted children, about all of the technical and educational background to it. All I can do is speak from my own life experience in my heart and my child's heart and say, please don't cut this program, please find the money.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. Does anyone have any? Does any board member have a question with respect to the information that Mr. Bush has presented us with this evening? Thank you very much. Just a procedural thing here. So, as I understand it, from your letter, you have made a request that the board reconsider its decision pursuant to policy 1002. I think that what you're asking us to review here actually is our decision with respect to the list of budget cuts that we made in January. So that would be the decision that we would be reconsidering at our next board meeting. I believe that the policy says that if you can demonstrate those 4 points, the board should reconsider the decision that the board shall, it uses the word shall in the policy. So next month on our board meeting agenda will be an item on there where the board will reconsider the decision that we made in January, and it will be the entire list of budget cuts, and the decision that we will need to consider is whether we're going to reconsider the whole list or not. So procedurally, I think that's would meet the policy and your request. Okay? Thank you very much for coming. And the challenge folks are free to leave now if they wish, or stay and listen to the rest of the board meeting. Thank you. Okay, next we'll go to old business. Planning for Brooklyn and Cape Plazo. You see the recommendation before you. Anybody want to? Oh, Green?
Yeah, I'd like to move that the board begin planning for the students of Brooklyn Cape Plaza to be, educated in one school setting, and that closure process is to begin early in the school year 2010-2011.
Sorry, what was that? Then that closure process is
To begin early in the 2010-2011 school year.
okay. So you want to open debate?
Yeah, actually I would. I have been a parent continuously for 13 years. As I pointed out today, not for the same child, I've had 4 children going to Brooklyn. So, and I personally have one there now, and many of the issues that we have been discussing at this board table were issues that we discussed back when my first child entered 13 years ago. So there's really, it's been going on for some time now. But there is a new issue, of course, and that would be the division of the school between the 2 sites, and that is a new issue. My daughter actually goes to Cape Plaza and frankly is quite happy there, and I'm happy with the progress she's making there. She's thriving there actually, and she really enjoys being with kids of similar age and being away from the other kids. She seems to be maturing at a rate that is appropriate, I guess. With my youngest child, I've watched her with her. She's doing quite well, and having heard from Danny how well Black Creek Elementary School worked in the day as a primary school. And, you know, for me, I think long-term, so I was thinking, what does this district need? And that led me to think about Brooklyn Primary and Cape Plaza and Community and two separate and distinct sites, separate administrative resources and the whole bit. And as a parent, I have to say that sounded pretty good to me. But I don't vote as a parent here. I vote as a trustee. And I take my responsibility on that very heavily. And I need a lot of input, which I've got from senior staff and from the parents. And so for me, it only makes sense that we need to make them whole again. We need to reunite this group. And I don't believe it can be done before September 2011 earliest, because of many things. Chief amongst them, of course, is the contract we have with the CSF, which is binding. The fact that there isn't room enough for all the kids at one site prior to that, that there really isn't money in the portable things to make the site. And for me, if we wait until, and I mean early, in the year, September 2010, October, something on that one, then we can gather the information we need to make the best decision for the community. Also, the community will know if we make this, if we pass this motion, they'll know that we have a plan for their school. It'll also give them a breather, because they've been working on this for a long time. And so they'll be able to also gather whatever information they think they need, if they choose. They can enjoy the rest of the school year, and then in the fall we can start fresh and go through the process. That's my motion.
Well, I support the motion in principle. I do have one concern, and I think of making an amendment. Is the fact that there's no date in that. And I think that we need to plan that the effective 2011 that these students are in one facility. And that's not including the motion. I believe that should be there. And I also believe that we need to actually publicly state, and I'm willing to make a motion on that, is that we start closure procedure on Brooklyn Elementary School effective June 2011 to accommodate that. And I don't like closing schools. I hate closing schools. But we've heard from the community clear and clear that they want to be united in a school that's safe and it's healthy. And it's time this board needs to be fiscally responsible and listen to the community. And fiscal responsibilities, we have a school up the road that meets the seismic up standards, it meets the health and safety. And we need to ask the community that's what they really want and move forward. And to hold the community in limbo to me is inappropriate and it's beyond that. So I would like to the board to consider is having a date in that effective 2011 that these children are united in their school and we start closure on Brooklyn Elementary, because it's time to move forward and it's time to be responsible. We're elected to make fiscally responsible decisions that face the entire district. It's not about our own personal views. It's not about the rumors out there about keeping one campus open because we want to go back to a middle school model. We need to make it clear forward where we want to go from here on that one, and that would be my consideration of this board.
So just for clarity, my understanding is that there is a closure process, that you would do what you did unfortunately before and prepare reports that would consider how transitions might work, what the dates might be, and so forth. Correct, Len?
Yeah, I'm just add to that. I think at this time, I would like to see the board consider themselves having one of the staff. I think given some of what happened with the last closures, they might actually be something to strongly consider. I know it's not a big deal, but just a motion actually hasn't been set.
Yes, kind of cart before the horse.
I think it was.
Yeah, no, there's, yeah. So I think that would be an appropriate discussion after we take a vote on this motion. That would be great. Tom?
Just for clarification, Len, when we say school closure process, are we only really speaking to Brooklyn because Lazo is already closed, or has that been gone through that process, or has that circumstance changed by virtue of the fact that there are kids there?
We've spoken about this at our agenda-setting meeting, and we thought that if the board passed this motion, that the reasonable next thing would be for someone to state that they're making a notice of motion that we would reopen Cape Lazo at the next board meeting. That would allow staff to go about and get a legal opinion with respect to that, to ensure that we're doing everything correctly. Okay. So, do you want to speak to the motion, Tom? Or?
No, beyond that.
Okay, anyone else? Fran?
I would also support the motion that Corinne raised, and I like the idea of starting early next year, which will also allow any kind of process issues to be sorted out, and also start to flow and get the brain running. We don't have to detours into the process. So, one other piece of this, and I'm not sure where it would be appropriate to talk about this, is in the interim for next year, all of the short-term measures, if we could tie down what's going to happen from the fact that we've talked about carpets on the walls for a year or one of them. So just wondering if we could figure out a plan today so you're not left with more questions for next year.
Danny?
I'll be supporting the motion. As much as Trustee McLennan made reference to Black Creek School, which was the neatest little school we ever had in this district. I think I've heard loud and clear what the parents want and how they want their kids back together, so I'll also be supporting the motion.
Well, I support it and reiterate the Fran's concern that we have some kind of information come to us soon regarding some measures for the next year, and so what would be the process to be getting a report about air quality and other issues for the interim year, and a budget attached to that the board would be able to consider that is going to get to us before next September, so we could look at it and hopefully have a work plan.
So further on in the agenda, Sheila, I believe that Len will be bringing forward some issues, a report with respect to air quality reports at Brooklyn. So that might be an appropriate place for us to...
Okay, just think we need to really be clear as we link this that is part of the plan. Don't you?
Tom, did you want to
I
add?
support the motion. I concur with what people have said.
Yeah, okay, then I'll say something to you. I also will be supporting the motion. When we first contemplated this, I had said that I was leaning toward having two separate sites for the school. I do thoroughly believe in public consultation and hearing what people have to say. That's one of my core beliefs. And I believe I have heard loud and clear from the Brooklyn community, from the staff. And again, I would like to thank the staff for coming and honestly telling us without reservation how they felt. It's a proud moment for me, that. And we heard clearly from parents that they wished for their children to be in one facility, and so I'm happy to also support this motion. Green, do you want to add any closing remarks?
No, thank you.
Okay, so Debbie, if you could please read back the motion.
The board began planning for the students of Brooklyn and Cape Lazo to be educated at one school site, and that the school closure process began early in the 2010-11 school year.
Okay, everyone's clear on the motion? Yeah, I'm going to ask for a couple myself. Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. So I think that we need to look for someone to make a notice of motion that we intend to reopen Cape Lazo School next month. Okay, so this is apparently not something we need to vote on, right? So a notice of motion is served that we're intending to reopen Cape Lazo School full of people. It's kind of funny, but... And then I think I would also like to see if anyone would like to make a motion that perhaps we make a referral to our chair, vice chair, senior staff liaison that meets to have a discussion with respect to what Len has said about how we would develop the information and do the closure process, and have a discussion about that and see if we bring a recommendation back with respect to that. Does that sound reasonable? Would anyone so move? Make a referral to the chair, vice chair, senior staff committee to develop recommendations regarding the consultation closure process with the report back to the board in May. Does that sound reasonable? Does that sound like something that you would have moved? Okay, we had some, okay, so we have some discussion on that then. Yes?
So I have a question, procedural and point of order, is that, do you not have to make a motion to enact policy 3050 and 3051R1 to start the closure on both date before we even do that? Because my understanding is we have to do that, and I just out lunch on that, so can someone clarify me on that one?
Dr. Tenney.
I was going to suggest that you're probably going to invoke the policy for permanent school closure for sites within the next month or so, and what you could do is that you could come back at the next board meeting with that motion to say, okay, here's a process for how you go about that.
Yeah.
As far as the consultant, you don't need to do it just a chair, vice chair, you do it a public board.
I would prefer the public process and bring it back the next meeting and go forward from there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we wouldn't be invoking any motions at a chair, vice chair meeting. Much as I'd love that, it would make life easier. I don't think we could do that. I don't think Len would let us get away with it. Okay, anyone else have any discussion on this? Okay, Debbie, could you read back the motion, please?
So is it a referral to the chair, vice chair, and senior staff
Liaison committee.
liaison committee to develop a plan with regards to the school closure process and bring recommendations back to the next board meeting?
Okay. Okay. Len?
So I just have a tiny concern about people, like, is there going to be a reporting and turn back to the trustees or like a couple? Like, it's going to be something that people are quite interested in, sort of, you know, what that process is going to look like.
Well, the report would have to come back to the next board meeting, and if the board was in agreement with that, I guess we would vote it, is what I'm thinking. So it can't be up to us to decide this. It's,
No.
Could you circulate it around?
what do you think?
Well, it's just that if you come back, it's going to come with a recommendation. Right? Is that going to be not done until just before?
Well, you could raise it, you could send it out, post it on the website,
That's what
yeah. We'd do like our process to be open as we can, so. Is everybody all right with that? Finding an official goal. Yeah?
I'm confused. I have to say I'm confused as to what the process, and maybe I'm just getting too much on here. So we're going to clarify to me that we are going to have staff bring forth a recommendation at the next board meeting to whether we're going to enact the school closure process. So please explain to me what we are doing, because I just don't get it right now.
What we're doing here is, we have voted to.
I got that part, but
Begin
the
the
next
plan
step.
for students in one building, and so, that would surely involve closure processes. We think we probably have to reopen Cape Lazo before that can happen, so we serve notice of motion. Staff will get a legal opinion with respect to that. Then we'll have a discussion as to how the closure process might look, and what process we would undertake to consult people. Just so we could just about the process, bring that back to the next board meeting, along with motions probably to enact the closure policy.
That's where I'm lost, because my understanding is that you enact the process first and then bring back that. So I guess I'm wondering, my assumption is that we make a motion to start the process and enact the policy on those, and then bring back the recommendations, and I guess I'm just wondering why we're doing it in reverse. So I just need clarification on that one. Maybe I'm just not reading it myself, so I'll ask Elaine to clarify that one.
We don't know which schools, we're not 100% sure that we can enact a closure policy on Cape Lazo right away. We're going to get a legal opinion on that and bring it back for next month. What is your concern about?
Well, the concern that I have is that I would like to talk about, Cape Plaza is already closed, so why are we looking at enacting closure policies on Cape Plaza when it's closed? The only school
We're
going to
getting a
talk
legal,
about,
we need to get a legal opinion on that, Jenna.
point of order, but my question is, Cape Plaza is already closed, so why are we looking at enacting the policy on the school that's already closed? The only school that we can enact the policy on is Brooklyn. So do we wait till we receive that process to determine what process we're going to use? Because the only school that we can do this policy on is Brooklyn, because Lazo's already been closed, and that's where I don't get it.
So, okay, so the timeline would be, they'll call the lawyer to see if we need to have a closure process on Cape Lazo or, an open process or what that looks like, right? So when they answer that question for us, then at the next board meeting, we will know, what to do with respect to that. Legally, it's kind of a legal technicality thing, I think. Okay? So, we have a motion on the floor. Can you please read it back, Debbie?
Refer to the chair, vice chair, and senior staff liaison committee to develop a plan with regards to the school closure process and bring a recommendation at the next board meeting.
Okay. Go.
I was going to suggest, I was looking back in the fact that we actually wrote a briefing about this a couple months ago, about the process that we need to follow. The board has an opportunity at the education committee where we could have discussions and consult with legal counsel before we come to the whole board as an education committee to make the entire process clear. And the board has a meeting at the end of the month in May, and then we have a real timeline for you to say, here's the legal advice, here are the next steps you need to do, this is where the enforcement policy comes in. Because one of the questions that we put to the board before, was the advice we had was that the board would have to serve notice of motion to reopen Cape Plaza in order to have dual closure processes. Because if you run a process on Brooklyn and it closes, there's nowhere for the board to send you out because Plaza is closed. So we would get all that information gathered up to the board, the education committee, to have conversations on that.
That work for you, John?
That makes sense, thank you.
Perfect. Sheila?
Can I just ask for information whether it is possible for us to do a motion to reopen Lazo and then not do a closure on Lazo and simply do the closure on
We're going to
Brooklyn?
get a legal opinion on that.
Okay.
Okay. So sorry, Debbie, can you read the motion back?
Refer to the chair, vice chair, and senior staff liaison committee to develop a plan with regards to the school closure process and bring a recommendation to the next board meeting.
Everyone good with that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Alice, did you have any other, you said you had a subsequent motion?
No, I'll leave it.
Okay.
I'm confused, that's okay, George's got me all organized now. It's a closure process, Madam Chair, I wasn't sure, but I think I got it now.
Okay, so we have a sidebar conversation there, shaking heads.
Sorry, Madam Chair. We were just, we thought that basically what was happening was we were on the education committee, the motion was moved, so chair, vice chair, liaison.
No, we're definitely bringing it to the education committee. Do you want a subsequent motion made for that? Policy advisory committee? Okay? No. You can start talking money. Okay. We'll now move to renaming of school, Glacier View Elementary School.
I would move that the school currently named Glacier View Elementary School be renamed Glacier View Secondary.
Second the motion.
Any discussion on that? Okay, we'll vote. All those, oh, sorry. Please.
First of all, thank you to Gentlemen and the committee, with the work they've done, bringing this recommendation forward. It isn't the board's need to make changes to the names of programs as well, but you should know that they're also renaming the Sandwich program to the Bridgeway program to provide some food from Sandwich, so they were looking for a different name, and also contract tutoring will see them called Knowledge and Powers View, the key program. Those are within the realm of the motion, so that's why the name is secondary, and that it provides education to secondary students and center in that it houses the community park.
Thank you very much. Okay. Vote, all those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. So on the chair's report, it's my pleasure to welcome Sheila to our merry band of 6, now back to its full complement at 7. Sheila brings quite a length of contribution to the school district, mostly from DPAC in recent years. I know that you have been involved with the island schools, and you bring a good perspective and can speak well on their behalf. Also a big advocate for community schools, so I think that will be a great addition to the board, and I think I look forward to many interesting debates with you. Thank you. Welcome, Sheila. Thank you. All right. Management reports over to you, Jordan.
Madam Chair, I'm just going to say that and local license on behalf of the staff, the board. Good news items, we had we presented good news items, but this year is one of the a few items I want to highlight. There are some listed in the board pack that I want to go and just raise a few more. We can try and identify things that are brought to the attention on a monthly basis, and really thanks to our local media who do a great job highlighting good things happening in our school. So very briefly, Cumberland Elementary, you may or may not know that the students in 2019 they raised money for the Canadian Red Cross and helped Haiti. They had a $1,000 goal, and they were successful in reaching that. Mark Arista students were recently selected for parental championships with Destination Imagination. A team of 7 students was selected for the provincials that actually were this past weekend. The Parents Advisory Committee is a committee that was structured for district last year. And we are launching our Encore Instrumental Aid program where if you have musical instruments or slightly used, you get information on the district website about where to donate those instruments that can be used by our students. Highland Secondary is helping out Haiti, as many of you may know. They have Indian Cafe to support Haitians because of the earthquake this year, and they're using the money to purchase shelter boxes. In addition, the Highland grads of 2010 are attempting to raise $12,000 to cover the entire high school tuition for 10 Ugandan students. The Heritage Fair, I know we acknowledged it before, but we're a huge success. District-wide, we have 250 students, grade 3 to 12, participating in this wonderful event every year. We were at Brooklyn today for the school review and noted that the grade 4 getting performed as Salmon Circle song and congratulating new Canadians. Of course, Lake Trail Robotics is the most native, but also the world champion, which is back from Texas. So we're good for them. And of course, Manny students now the 2-time national champs. So congratulations, Lori Beatty, Robinson Wilson, and all the Manny students. And if you wish to watch the Canadian Hockey tournament, you can actually watch it online at And last but not least, the Great Canadian Geography Challenge. Brad Darwin and John Kruger, district champions, and Johnson Lee. We did this as a promise by the test of Paul Fencer to keep someone like that excited.
Maybe he's a proud mom. That's you.
It's not often that I wear a trusted and parent hat simultaneously. Those of you who know me know whenever I'm speaking, I tell you which hat I'm wearing. But that is my son, and he did make it to the nationals. There are 35 students competing in the National Geography Challenge, which is on there, which is quite disappointing. But it's certainly interesting, and it would be an interesting process for us to try sometime to see if we can get any of the
And also, of course, Sheila's son was in the Lake Trail that we've obviously been dealing with. That is the good news I have.
Thank you. So I'd just like to thank you for putting on an evening to give parents information with regards to the challenge program last week. I think that was quite helpful and informative for many people, so thanks for that. Anyone have any questions for Marianne about this item? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on the air quality report, these are just a couple of reports that haven't been before the board previously, so I wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to see them. They weren't particularly good news. There's the one that was regarding the airflow through the ventilation units. They do not allow much fresh air to enter the building or do anything to reduce the safety problem. That's not a surprise, though. They weren't really designed to move a huge amount of fresh air, and they are actually working at close to their design. The second report was on noise level of those same units again at the Brooklyn site, and they did come in, even though they're very low setting, and only I think on one of the units was actually within what you would consider any sort of an ideal situation. So again, those units are higher noise level than what we would like to see. And I thought it was important to bring that to the board just to make sure that they're aware of it, and to also say that this is, of course, ongoing as other air quality reports are done, and we work on keep updates.
Anyone have any questions for Liz? Sheila?
I'm just wondering, since we're getting the information that these units are not effective and they are too noisy, are we looking for advice about replacements and a budget for, if there is an alternative to increase airflow, what should we be using? Or have we sought that information from these consultants?
So on alternatives, we have started to look at, I'm not sure what crews are on it. We were going to put some bigger ventilation fans maybe in some other areas of the school just to try and get more air flowing through it. These particular units, though, there's really nothing you can do to improve them. It's strictly straight out replacement. So to do a quick approach to actually the Rocky Point firm with that question, is there any intern or steps or anything you can do for it? Their response really was it's pretty close to $500,000, so it really wouldn't be something that would make a lot of sense from that perspective to put the money into it. As for budgets, of course, as you know, there's AFG has been reinstated, as I mentioned at the Brooklyn meeting, which is good. They've also put back in full HVAC units separate in under line of capital, which again is good. But the unfortunate part of those, I think they also are probably in the 11th, 12th year before you would actually get to see them as well. So that's probably all I know about
Just maybe to provide a little information, Janice and Danny and I took an opportunity to go meet with our MLA, Don McCrae, to make him aware of our capital requirements and issues at this time, and especially in light of the fact that the provincial government had made quite a few announcements earlier in the month with respect to $500,000 grants to various different schools in the province in order to help them with their HVAC upgrades and greening their schools. And so we wanted to ensure that Mr. McCrae was aware that we have similar issues here in the Comox Valley, and see if he could do some advocacy on our behalf. So we had a discussion with him with respect to that. And last Friday, trustees went to the annual general meeting in Victoria, and we had a 7:30 a.m. sharp meeting with the capital guy. I don't know what his official title is. Assistant Deputy Minister Capital Planning, and also one of the Superintendents of Achievement. And again, we highlighted there the district's need for some assistance with their capital projects in both the major category, Vanier seismic, and also minor things such as Brooklyn. It's useful to talk about Brooklyn. It has been in the media, and we can speak sort of with authority on it because we have a lot of data on what's happening there. So I guess we're probably looking to hear from the ministry soonish, as they seem to be coming out with new ways for boards to make capital requests, and we're going to need a new list prepared and so forth. So that's kind of where we're at there. They think that there might be some grants coming next year, but of course there's no promises. But we will continue to advocate on behalf of the district to get our share of whatever pie there is available. Anyone else, Fran?
After my question, because the carpet's on the wall, is there a plan?
Actually, it was in the work order, so we continued that. It's really more summer, kind of job, you don't play them off during the school year, so that is on the list of work orders. The flooring ones for sure. I know someone asked about the walls, I'm not as certain about that. Chuck being our director of operations, we haven't had a chance to clarify further. But certainly we're looking at the flooring for big picture.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, next one. Jordan, field trip, you know it.
This is very much a housekeeping item. For time to time, this is the public knows the board gets into positions where they need to do a field trip where it doesn't meet our timelines for 5 months in advance is the case, and so we want to bring forward some new motion to acknowledge the Bay Trail trip. And just so people be aware that from time to time, the board does do this by the whole between board meetings.
Yeah, and we did conduct a polling, and no one was opposed to the students going on the trip, and that happened before Sheila was on the board as well. So
Yeah,
just for your
I'd like
information.
to have a note that I'm declaring conflict of interest and that I was not involved in the previous decision that is now being ratified.
Thanks, Sheila. Yes?
So move that the board approve the Lakes Trail Secondary School curriculum as presented.
Okay, any discussion? Janice?
I'd like to take this opportunity, maybe Jordan, you can address, I know that a lot of people in the community came forward and supported these students. I'd like to acknowledge those in the community. I believe someone donated air miles and supported these kids. So a really big thankful to the community that came forward and supported our students heading off to Texas, because without the community support, those kids would not gone. So I don't have all their names, and I apologize, but I do know there were some members of the community that came forward and supported our students, and thank you to those.
Okay. Okay, so all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Mr. Douglas, Band 7 update?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I could, I'd like to give you that where we are with Band 7. I've met twice with the elementary principal, and collectively we first have a schedule and a timetable which is actually quite workable, that will provide 2 45-minute sections of elementary Band 7 a week to the students in the school. And just a reminder to the board that Royston and Cumberland Hill will receive Band 7 at Cumberland Junior, and Fremont reported great registration at Band 7 there for their school. And something quite English, Arden, reporting now will receive Band 7 at Lake Fairlands, Carpenters, that band is being offered and proceeding. So there's a little question about that. Presently, I'd like to say also that, the logistics that the board gave me figuring out the schedule, and of course this budget that we gave me, was quite a daunting task. And with Miracle Beach being at one end of the district and Fairport being at the other. And I have 2 elementary music teachers who are qualified to teach Band 7. And their music teachers that are currently at their schools who have come forward and said, I've expressed an interest in working willing to do the Band 7. I'm really happy to say that one of them is the music teacher at Miracle Beach. And that alleviates a 26-kilometer drive out and 26-kilometer drive back. So it also really helps with transportation, ownership, and advocacy at the school. I drafted sort of an informational letter last week. I made copies to circulate to the board. I put a short timeline on it. Just wanted to get some idea for you folks tonight as where we are with band registration. I wanted parents to know what the financial commitment was for them, because they will be renting the instruments. We push schools and principals are very good at coming forward saying, we're going to say what else we're offering. So parents knew what the choice was. We sent this out and we said we want to turn around in 5 days. And many of our principals have done emails and pounded and I think rewarded, whatever the case may be. We do have some indication tonight of where we are. There's more letters going to trickle in. And remember, we were still at conceptual stage that it got really quickly to the implementation stage. So I'll pass these over to the board members to see what the letter looks like. So at this point, right now, I'm happy to say that Aspen has 7. Oh, I should say also that in consultation with a number of music people, both in our district and outside of our district, up and down the island, I asked the question, what is the minimum number of students we would need in order to have a band set? Because parents needed to know that in the letter. The number ranged somewhere between 12 and 20. So I went with 12 as a minimum number. We also said in the letter to parents, this is a year-long commitment. It's not something we try for a week to get out. So we're hoping that 12 is the number we stick with. So at this point, we have Aspen was 7. They're still pushing. At this point, Airport is still counting their students coming in. Brooklyn has strong 17. Q-Band has 27. Miracle Beach has 14. Park has 26. And that's just on the French immersion side. Remember, the Greenwich are going to the trail. Canisia's 8. Rock Road has 24. And Valley View has 18. Now remember, they only had 5 days to get the stuff back to me. So I'm thinking that principals are still doing a push on this, and so you can certainly see that at this point I believe we're on target. We're moving ahead with the implementation of Band 7, and yes, I know the budget is $100,000, and at this point I'm doing my best to make sure I stay with it. Questions?
Mr. Douglas, can you just confirm for the board and the public that Band 7 is not a prerequisite for Band 8?
Band 7 is not a prerequisite for Band 8. It is not. It's a mini band. It's an elementary Band 7. I think if you look at my letter, I tried very carefully to say to parents, this is not the traditional middle school band that you'll remember where there were 40 50 children with full complement of instruments. It won't be like that, but it will be an introduction to band. Certainly there will be qualified teachers teaching it. We haven't put out yet the position for the band teacher that will do the itinerary work, because at this point we want to make sure we get to go with each of these schools before we advertise what it is. Under the consultation with the HR department, and Maria and I are confident we will advertise later in the year once we've firmed up that FTE. Those schools that aren't at 12, we're going to give them a little bit of a chance to get to 12, and if not, we're going to have to make a decision. This isn't below there, and we don't put any FTE with us.
Any other follow-up question or comment? And for clarification for the board and the public, that the time that is being set aside for band comes out of a 10%-ish discretionary largely within the curriculum at each elementary school. So it's not that children would be pulled out of a math class or a science class or whatever the case may be, or a phys ed. But while they are doing band, there will be other activities, perhaps one, perhaps more, depending on the elementary school. That would vary, I imagine. But it's using that 10% discretionary time in the curriculum.
And that is correct. Remember, fine arts is 145 minutes a week, but not only for the music, for cerebral arts, drama, all of those things. In addition to that, we have optional, which is another 145 minutes a week. Now, you know schools have already filled that time, including things like the last one they're doing 7 half, right? We're doing that as a school run. So there will be things that they're going to have to shift and make work to try and implement this extra 45 minutes. But we've said all principals are on board with this, that when Band 7 students are taken up to Band 7, the core academic subject will not be carried on. So Alan, you can take the band, I'm not missing half of language arts. Okay. Is that it?
Yeah. Well, just wanted you to confirm this.
Any other questions?
Just have a comment. I'm glad that you're being flexible with how this is rolling out. I think it does make sense if you have a teacher right there in the school to use their expertise, and they know the kids already, and I think that's helpful, and glad to see how it's rolling along. Thank you very much. I'm good. Well, Trustee McClellan mostly was good with that. Okay. Thank you. Sherry, Neighborhoods of Learning.
Madam Chair, I appoint the trustees to bring
application process starts within school communities, but it ends at the board table. There needs to be, from the school, there needs to be an endorsement from the board for that application for service. As the preview note outlines, the focus is on membership learning centers, not neighborhoods of learning, which is, gets twisted a little bit sometimes. The application process, what person with me has that to your eyes, sort of the collective feature of those things for you. The focus is on using spaces in schools to bring in community partners to perhaps plan in school communities, envision in school communities or community partners. Probably more of an emphasis is the way I view the whole process this year on that, as opposed to in years past. There is a total of $30,000 available to this school district. So with a maximum of 3 proposals. So you could look at that as $30,000, 3 proposals at $10,000, or you could endorse 2 proposals at $15,000, or 1 proposal. However you chose to do that, at a maximum of 3. As I just outlined there, the process is very clear. There's a website if anyone wanted additional information. I'm aware that some of the projects that we're talking about this year have received notice of their ability perhaps to apply again and extend their activities. That has been a facilitated process, and I'm aware of a number of other school communities that are thinking about applying this year. So as my briefing note outlines, and you'll notice that I didn't put a recommendation at the bottom, because until I could presume what the process would be, I would humbly suggest that you might let me gather those applications for me to bring to the May meeting with the criteria outlined, so that you have the ability to benchmark what that is. As you look at making the decisions, my 3 questions to you in terms of what you might want to consider are, what are the mechanisms of the decision-making format that you will use to determine which application or applications you endorse? What timelines do you work best for you? Understanding that your last chance to endorse them will be through May meeting because the deadline is being short. And this all just in usual fashion came down in the last year. And then what additional information might the board need to make the decisions in this area way that I can help you?
Thank you. John?
Actually, I would like to refer this to the education committee to have a discussion. I think that in the past, we've had some wonderful applications come to the board, and we've had like 4 or 5 of them, and we've had to make that really tough decision. And I think the conversation needs to be had beforehand, so I would like to make the motion to refer this to the education committee to have that conversation. It's before our board meeting, and we can have a discussion as to what we want to look at, which I think we can do some sort of direction in my motion.
Have a seconder? Okay. Okay, any further discussion on this one?
A little bit of clarification. You want to see the applications back by the education committee?
No, it's to have a conversation to these 3 questions. What mechanism, what timelines, or what information, to have that conversation, give some direction to Sherry so she's able to bring those back to us in their May meeting.
Just a question, is there room for this at the May Education Committee meeting?
Fill up.
I think it's important that we do it. Okay.
I'll cut you up to 15 minutes instead of 30.
Exactly 4 seconds.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. I'll see my updates, Georgie.
Where we are with a number of policies that we've done over the last year. And I asked for a little bit of help on the board, and I actually noticed that there were 2 motions to adopt policy 3002 and to adopt policy 3004. If you turn to the reading note on page 23, the regional policy, we've done over policy this year. And I actually, I hope that the board would do the next steps that are there, which are to receive 2 policies that are provided information, and these are really quite out of date and not, judgment needed in the policy manual, so it is from the environment, homework assignments, and teacher expectations with respect to student discipline. I know that teacher expectations with respect to student discipline is complex, but that's something that should be retained, but it's not a local point. And policies
so maybe we could have a motion to rescind policies 8052, 7006, and 6029. Anybody? Okay, second? Okay, any discussion on those? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. So there was the two motions to refer policy 3003 and 3005 to the Policy Advisory Committee. So moved. Do you have a seconder? Yes?
I just have a question regarding the Policy Advisory Committee streamlining, and I guess it's something I'm going to throw out to the rest of the trustees.
Just a sec, Janice, we've got a specific motion on the floor here. Okay.
So we'll go with that one here. These policies are brought back to us to have a motion to that. And I guess my concern is, why do we need to come back to us to refer to the policy committee? Because they're going to come back to us to approve them or not anyway. So I guess I'm wondering what, to me it seems like we are sort of doubling the workload. And I just want some clarification as to why we are doing that, because I look at this, we refer it to you, you come back to us, and we go through this process again. So my question to you is do these policies, and I guess I'm going to we're referring, are they such that we need to have this double dipping policy process?
Janice, I think senior staff is following policy 1001 in our policy manual, which asks that work come to the board and then we refer to this. We can have a discussion at a subsequent governance session or so to vary that if you like.
I would just ask that maybe you pause until it comes time to report, for me to report out, because it's an item that I'll be reporting out.
So we have a specific motion here to refer the two policies to the Policy Advisory Committee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So there's policy work going to be done. Then we have on these other policies, and then policies to be adopted, 3000 MR2 and 3024 as presented. So there's the motions for those who are on the agenda. Someone wish to make...
to adopt both policies as presented.
Okay, is there a seconder? Is there any discussion? I have an item with respect to one of those policies, 3000 MR2. It's with regards to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy request under Procedure Section 1. I believe that the information that we've received is that the board is the head of the organization, or whatever the language is, and I think as such, where it says the superintendent, it should be changed to the Board of Education. It's the only change that I would recommend. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah. We hope that would be
Yeah. Okay, so it would be then to pass those policies as amended. Okay. Okay. Do you have any questions or comments?
I think I just agree with it being the Board of Education. I think that it lodges more appropriately with the superintendent, that we task him with managing these sorts of things. It's an administrative function, appointing a coordinator, and I just don't see the reason for the board to do that. So we have a difference on that one.
Okay, in practice, I think Glenn is actually the one that does all this work. We stay out of his way, and he just does it all, and he's been appointed, and we really needed to sort of put this in writing, I guess, really. We have received some information with respect to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and it makes reference to the head of a, do you have the word there, the head of the organization, and that is the body that's vested with the duties in the Act, and we can delegate, and we are the head of the organization, we can delegate that to an employee, which I don't think Jordan would like if we delegated this to him from me. So, for Len and so we don't actually do anything with respect to freedom of information requests. Okay, so any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. just like to thank you for the way that you brought this forward. I think this was quite efficient, and I guess over to Tom for the rest of the report.
I have a question, yes. I have a question on the report. R1006R1, that's the travel budget, referred to the finance committee. I don't remember ever seeing it somewhere. When was it referred?
On that, because it was just out of the committee, and that was, last year,
Okay. Last year. We put it on.
No. Tom, did you want to?
I'm not up until a little further down.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you. Glenn is getting off easy. There's no Secretary Treasury report. So Linda Marie.
Departments on page 29, so, we have Ina Emery, because there's a title there, March 31st, not January 29th. So we've got a 31 administrative district. And we have Donna Messer, teacher, treasurer, teacher at Public Department, and areas on the district. Allison Wilkinson, EA at 5, will be retired from here after 20 years of service to the district. Helen Mason, the senior assistant on 39, will retire June 30th after 18 years of service to the district. Mary Newcomb, an assistant at Marshallstown, will retire effective July 31st after 21 years of service to the district. And we also have a resignation of Chris Wilson, So I just wanted to remind the board that all those folks that have this job will be honored at the board function on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Motion for the state management report.
Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
The date for the retirement, we didn't hear it over here, so what was that? I'm sorry.
June 16th is the retirement.
Thank you. Finance committee report.
Okay, you have the minutes for you. There's no recommendations to come forward. We've received the report.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed, none is carried. Thank you. Tom, over to you for policy advisory.
So you have the minutes of our meeting before you. There are also no recommendations that are coming out of that. I do want to draw your attention, the board's attention, to the second part in item 4, which is the scheduling of the policy committee meetings. And during that conversation, we also talked about frequency of meetings in terms of making sure that we're getting good value, because there's lots of folks who are coming from far and wide and other responsibilities to participate. And it also got us into a bit of a conversation of how material ends up before the committee. And so we have a year and a half or more now under our belt in terms of the policy advisory committee moving forward, and find in general, and I'll certainly defer to my two colleagues who were there as well, but certainly my read of the conversation with my trustee colleagues plus the partner groups, is that it is sort of an unintended cumbersomeness linked to it. I apologize for the full grammar there. But it is cumbersome. And specifically, when we look at our terms of reference that we've adopted as a board, where it speaks under jurisdictions that items will be referred to this committee by the Board of Education, it provides really no latitude for any other way, even small housekeeping items could get before the committee for conversation, that it necessitates being routed through the larger body to get to the smaller body. And as part of the May 4th meeting, we're going to have a bit of a conversation to see what we may bring back to the board, to the larger board table at a future board meeting, around some adjustments in language that perhaps allow us to be more effective and to be more thorough and thriftier and all of those things with many of the items that I think that we can and that the committee feels that it can deal with in an expedited way. I don't know if Fran or Janice, you have any comments. I I think I got at your point that you were trying to make earlier.
I think so. I think there's many housekeeping items that don't need to come to the board table to have a 5-10-minute discussion. Just changing the word, updating to do the ministry standards, and I think that after a year and a half, we can fine-tune and sort of streamline how things get done. It creates less of a workload for everybody, and I would agree with Tom that conversation needs to happen. I think we need to look at how policies get to the policy committee, and do we all have to go to the board table for mind-tuning, mind-tweaking, and that's something that I think we need to look at. That's just my personal take on it.
I would recommend that we also raise this in the context of governance that would affect other things as well. Thank you. Anything else to add?
No, please, motion to receive my report.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Education Committee, Dan?
Okay, we met on April 13th. Had a very passionate presentation from the Challenge Program teachers, Jocelyn Weisstrom and Karen Stewart. A very informative presentation from the Sage Hills Development by Dave Russell, who was the president, and Pat English, the vice president. Unfortunately, one trustee was sick and one had to leave for another meeting, and we only basically had 3 trustees left at that point, but since I was after 9 o'clock, we did not get to the discussion on the daycare sites, and that was deferred to the May board meeting, education committee meetings. And we'll receive my report.
Fran, you have a question?
One of the items, the deferred item, the daycare sites, in addition to being theoretical or policy compliance, is also practical importance to the daycare operator and the nursing community, because looking to like daycare or additional daycare there. As the process that we have over a year, just wondering if there's anything that we could do to deal with the real people issue before we have the whole theoretical policy. And I know we could have come to a conclusion to just start the process of the
I'm not sure, from my perspective, we've sort of put that on hold until we've had the discussion with the board about our feelings about portables and daycares, and if we're cited who would pay for them, and there's some significant implications. So I think for that reason we've parked the action request. I don't know, Len, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'd have to agree. I think it deserves that larger conversation. So you don't start down the road and have a changing direction. I think that's kind of what's happening at the time.
So I appreciate that, but it just do want to know that it really is a concern, because the community who have been holding for last September and have been holding for the possibility of this September. I don't know if this time is
It may.
I would find it helpful in our discussion at the next May Education Committee if we could have a copy of that proposal with a sense of what its scope is, so that actually we're talking about, and perhaps a list of the daycares that are currently cited or have been proposed for our, so that we are actually also putting it in the context of some specifics. Sometimes people are alarmed at the big implications of something that turns out to be actually quite small. So, it would help us give us some context.
Len, was you able to provide Sheila with any of the past board pack information pieces on this? Thank you. Okay, so the motion is to receive Danny's education report. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, move on to board appointees to other bodies. This weekend, a few of us had the opportunity to attend the BC School Trustees Association annual general meeting, and maybe other trustees would like to make some comments with respect to that. But we it was interesting to me that trustees in the province are really united behind the concept that we see ourselves in a co-governance model with the Ministry of Education, and that the Ministry of Education really isn't coming to the table to talk to us about issues that are going on in the district. We had the minister come to speak to us, and I had an opportunity to ask a question with respect to co-governance. And she said her experience is that all school boards want to do is ask for more money. Well, that's certainly not true for our district here. We have had an opportunity to pose questions. Myself, I went with a group of board chairs, Vancouver Island School Trustee board chairs, at the end of March to meet with the minister, and the main thrust of our discussion was co-governance, and that we would like to have an opportunity to talk with her about things. She mentioned a couple of initiatives that she was interested in, and one is how does volunteerism work in schools, and how do teacher mentors work in schools. And our district actually has a good handle, I think, on how volunteerism works in schools and how mentor teachers work in our schools, and we've instituted a number of initiatives there. And I did offer to have our board give her advice or information on these things. Did it again when we met with the ministry folks on Friday morning. So we certainly are seeing ourselves in a position of wanting to talk and give advice and work together on creating some kind of a vision for public education in the province. So it's sort of disheartening when she dismisses us and says all we want is more money, because that's not true. Certainly is a piece of it. So I believe that the whole BCSTA is behind that. We are interested in talking, and a number of people spoke to motions. I don't know if any of you have anything to say. Glad that Sheila could join us. It's a good way to find out about school boards in the province.
Okay, the only thing that I'll add to, and I guess I had the conversation regarding the special advisor that's appointed at Vancouver School Board. I guess the most alarming thing that we heard, or I took about, is that the special advisor walked into school trustees and asked them for their resume. They wanted to know their background and their educational background, and asking basically what's like a job interview, and that kind of raised flags on that one there. And then as the Vista executive, and we're actually the largest branch of trustees, is that we did a one-day conference that we are in the process of, I guess the executive are meeting publicly in the next week or so that will come to boards to talk about the next step in the role of trustees and the role of public education and working with that co-governance model. I'm talking to Connie, who's our BCSA president, and Michael, who's our vice president. They felt that after the last meeting with the minister, and unfortunately she was met with, there was no love lost between the minister and our, as the paper quoted. But we have a long way to go to with public education. It's not about the money, it's about the respect and the local autonomy. And locally elected school boards are elected to support their local students and that autonomy in the local district. And fighting for what's good in Courtney may not be good in Campbell River or Vancouver or whatever it is. And what's happening in Vancouver is no reflection of that. So it's that local autonomy that we need to advocate for, and move forward on that one there. And I think Sheila was quite surprised about the motion to amend the motion to amend the motion and with motions, and it was, you think our burpees are on? And it was a good meeting, but like I said, we'll bring back information to school boards regarding the next vision of the role as trustees and advocating for local autonomy at the board level. So it's a long process. It's not about the money. It's about having the ability to decide for ourselves what's best for the students in the Comox Valley, not someone in Victoria.
Anyone else want to add anything?
I think I took from the other point there of the relationship with the ministry around co-governance is that it is about consultation, that they have issued a number of directives to school districts in the province without asking, paid, all the kindergarten being one, without asking from the people who know best whether they'd be well implemented on the ground about that. And that appeared to be directive, and the boards carry it out, and that in the co-governance agreement it's not really what it is about. So that was a very big issue for all the school boards, for sure.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. Calendar committee.
After spend a little bit of time on this future, what we're presented to the board and this is really an information heads up the board and give some initial certain indication of feeling. And I'd like to Steve Cohen as well, who sits on the committee that thanks Jeff Taylor for chairing it. The calendar committee sits every year, and often it's a straightforward process to just roll over a school calendar. But if you want to make any substantial changes to the calendar, you need to get all the information on the board and by May 31st every year. There are three options that the calendar committee is looking at, and I'd like to go through them very, very quickly and the board is aware of what we presented. They are option A, B, C in your pack. Just very briefly. The first one you see is the calendar, and sorry that it doesn't work out well over black and white, but option A is the first page there on page 35. It includes a 2-week spring break for the 2010-11 school year. And what you need to do, one option to create a 2-week spring break is you need to move professional development days to non-instructional days. So if you look at the text on the bottom of this calendar, it says event, and then it says date. The second item under events is non-instructional days, program planning. You'll notice it says August 31st, September 1st, 2nd, and February 7th. Those are 3 non-instructional days that will be hosted prior to the beginning of the school year, and with only one other non-instructional day hosted on February 7th. It either would be no October or November non-instructional days, and those days would be used to create a 2-week spring break, so they would be back onto the March holiday. So that is option A, 2-week spring break. The next option on the page 36 is a rollover. The calendar honestly is option B, and you'll see it's all the same text on the bottom around the event and the dates. You'll see non-instructional days, where you're planning under the dates. You see September 27th, October, February, April, May, and actually the November one is there as well. So then option B on page 36 is very full over our calendar. The option C on page 37 is another 2-week break option, but it's a little different in that to do this option, the committee is suggesting that you move the 2 weeks to align with the Easter long weekend, Good Friday and Easter Monday. And to make a long story short, what that means is that you would need to basically move 3 non-instructional days. So again, on that calendar, you see the non-instructional days on August 31st, September 1st, and September 2nd. But you'll see that the October, February, and January are routine. So in essence, you move 3 days to a 2-week break there. The implication for next year, and then it's a little bit of an odd year, sorry, is that the Good Friday and Easter Monday break is quite late. It's in late April. So that 2-week break comes somewhat late in the year. That human resources. But what the committee wants to communicate this time is there are 3 options. Each option they believe is doable. We just want the board to be aware of the implications and that there was a full report coming in May. I think certainly interested in any feedback. I don't know if Colin wants to comment any further.
Just that this calendar committee has been working incredibly hard and has lots of hard work. I'm putting up with some really I apologize, but that's why I'm
Yeah, I guess the information I've been looking for, and I'm pretty sure that you would give it to me, I just want clarification, is that when you lengthen the spring break and you take extra days off, you have to lengthen the classroom, no? But because I'm just looking at Vancouver just extended the, extra days because now they've got extra time, like they've moved the date extra 5 minutes to 10 minutes. If you add an extra 5 days to spring break, what it is, does that include adding length to the day for students? Does it include QP, losing time? So those are the things I would like to know is what does affect the day? Is staffing, how many staff will not get paid, the effect on that group there? So those are the things I've been looking for and some clarification on that.
At this time, the committee will strongly increasing the minutes in a day. the other typical way to gather up additional, basically, days off. And it was just incredibly complex for our support staff based on the number of variants and positions they have in the district. So the committee moved away from any options that considered the lengthening of the day and went to models that solely look at the moving of non-instructional days. And Marina and Field recommended that working with both the teacher union and the resolution around a list of questions about this long. But again, we're not looking at extending instructional days, we're looking at moving non-instructional days, and also looking at extremely well at no cost. We're optimistically pretty great at the cost saving later, and I don't believe that we are at all for any cost.
The first bullet under decisions to be considered by the board concludes with the will include recommendations, plural. And I to read that is that the committee will come back and say, here are the recommendations, A, B, or C, pick one, or are you going to come with a recommendation, singular, out of those three choices, the preferred? And I'm hoping it's that, as opposed to pick three. Thank you.
And we can be the recommendations, not the recommendations.
I have a question. Did they consider just simply starting the year off on August the 30th instead of after Labor Day?
Next.
I'm trying to fully understand the question. You don't have to lengthen the year in August 30th for the children in order to gather up. Basically, non-instructional days, you have 6 days. So you can create a 2-week break by moving just the non-instructional days, so you don't have to change the time.
Well, I'm just thinking like another way to do it would be just if you want to have an extra week in March, just start a week earlier. Was that considered at all, or? No? Okay. Anyone else? Just thought I'd ask. Mr. Douglas.
Question to the committee on under the 4-day week, where you have 4-day weeks that are operating at the end of the year. I'm just wondering.
No, thank you. Thank you.
How you're going to operate with a 4-day week when it's 4-day pay. Now, the other schools that are listed there normally half-day pay.
Oh, I never thought of that.
But the other two.
This is why we pay in big bucks.
And
So actually, Marianne noticed it.
Oh, okay, well, you know.
I have 3 question marks by each of the my sheets on 4-day week, but so I didn't mention it in the right. He's a thankful taking care of that.
Okay.
He's ever so diligent, Mr. Douglas.
He is. Diligent Douglas.
We just wondered if they were lengthening the day.
Anyone else? No? Okay, we'll move on. Next item is reconsideration of previous decisions. So, Sheila has provided us with some requests here. So I wasn't exactly sure how to handle these. I received notification last Thursday that Sheila was making these requests, and we were, of course, down in Victoria at the conference, so I didn't have my handy-dandy Robert's Rules of Order books available. So I just asked if Len could put them on the agenda, and I could do some further work to look at this. So what I did is I consulted with our board procedural bylaws and also Robert's Rules of Order, which we operate under, to sort of learn what the concept is of a motion to reconsider. And as I read Robert's Rules of Order, what was clear to me is the purpose of a motion to reconsider is if a body has made a decision and someone on the prevailing side, so the side that wins the vote, thinks to themselves, wow, I think we made a mistake because I've got more information or something has happened, they should be able to bring the motion back and say, I think I made a mistake in how I voted, and ask if the body would like to reconsider making the vote. Reconsideration would not be for someone who is on the losing side of a vote. They could not bring back a motion just because they lost and say, well, I disagree, and so I'd like to see if you guys would like to vote this again. So in this case, the key piece is that the person had to have been on the prevailing or winning side of a vote in order to bring forward a motion to be reconsidered. And so on that basis, because Sheila was not here to vote on this, I think I would have to make a ruling that we would not be able to accept the motion to reconsider from her. However, in a democracy, she should have an opportunity to influence people who are on the prevailing side of these votes to see if someone who voted on the prevailing side would like to bring forward a motion to reconsider. And so the information is here in the agenda. And I would suggest that if there is someone who voted on the prevailing side on either one of these two issues, if they wish to make a motion to reconsider at our next board meeting, that they could do so in the customary fashion by bringing forward a notice of motion either here or in writing at 4 days in advance of the board meeting, or by delivering the information to Mr. Is to be included with the agenda package for next one. So that's where I'm coming from on that, and I'm sure there will be some questions. I see your hand, Jen.
My understanding is that there's two alternatives. One is that the board, we can suspend that and call a motion to suspend that, where we can actually vote as a board to suspend our bylaws to allow this, or the other would change it to motion to rescind. And I'm wondering, Secretary Treasurer, on that one there, I believe there's the option is we can make a motion to rescind, which has to have 2/3 majority, and the other one is to make a motion to suspend our bylaws to allow this on there, which also has to be by a vote by 2/3 of majority. Is that the other options we're looking at?
So, Trustee Kate, I'd like to remind you that I'm the board chair and I'm the person charged with the duty of running the meeting. This is my decision with respect to...
So I'm going to challenge you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and you have the right to appeal the decision.
I do.
What you're doing. Would someone like to second Janice's appeal of this decision? Okay, so Sheila's appeal it, so I will just put my handy dandy little book here.
Maybe I should give you notice that I will also
Motion
challenge
be
it on other grounds.
sustain the chair.
Okay, so...
And the chair has the right to speak, and I have the right to speak.
Yeah, we saw this happen right before our very eyes at the AGM. So we were well instructed as to how this works. So let me just find the section here on... Oh, that's the section on appealing. Oh, I hope my little... Okay, here we go. So Robert's Rules of Order, page 304, under reconsidering. A motion reconsideration enables a majority in an assembly within a limited time and without notice to bring back for further consideration a motion which has already been voted on. The purpose of reconsidering a vote is to permit correction of a hasty, ill-advised, or erroneous action, or to take into account added information or a changed situation that has developed since the taking of the vote. To provide both usefulness and protection against abuse, the motion to reconsider has the following unique characteristics. It can be made only by a member who voted with the prevailing side. In other words, a reconsideration can be moved only by one who voted aye if the motion involved was adopted, or no if the motion was lost. And then it goes on a little further to say, when a member who cannot move a reconsideration believes that there are valid reasons for one, he should try, if there is time or opportunity, to persuade someone who voted with the prevailing side to make such a motion. So those are the basic points that I'm relying on in making this ruling. And I think that that's probably about it. So my understanding is that a challenge of the chair or an appeal is debatable. And so, Janice, if you would like to say why you believe that my decision should not be sustained, now is the time.
So my question is that I believe that yes, while you have that, I think there's another opportunity that we also have to look at, is that if this goes, is that a person then has the opportunity to, make a motion to reconsider, which 2/3 has to do that, and a motion that we can suspend our rules, and we as a board can vote whether or not we support this person. And that's my way I'm bringing up, is that if we decided that we don't want to, this falls outside parameter and we can't support that there is an opportunity, I'm making just that aware, that I believe under Robert's rule, is that can bring forward to the by the governing body that a motion can be made to to rescind our rules, to reconsider, which 2/3 have to vote, to bring it back to the agenda, or we can motion to rescind, which is also 2/3 vote. That's what I was bringing point to, whether that was valid or not. That was my
So
question.
that, we're speaking to the ruling that Sheila cannot bring forward these motions. Tom would like to speak?
So maybe I'd like to just take a step back. If I recall correctly, the prevailing parties were yourself,
Which one are we
Susan,
talking about?
the band, so that's band, prevailing band, you, Susan, and Fran. I voted against, you abstained, and Danny was ill. So on the first one, and I don't know if we need to treat them as a package deal, on the first one, you are in the position.
So, Tom,
of the
I
prevailer,
appreciate
right?
what you have to say. You're not speaking to whether the decision should be upheld or not. So you could offer a strategy after, and that would be fine, but you need to speak to whether the decision should be upheld.
Okay, go ahead, next one.
Okay? Anyone else like to speak to that? Fran?
I support the chair's view. I've done a bit of research on my own in terms of scholarly interpretations. And the whole, according to the author of the Idiot's Guide to Robert's the underlying principle is that someone has to have changed their mind before forcing the entire group to consider the exact same decision. So there's really two parts that are very important in Robert's rules. One is the person changing their mind from the previous side, and two, the entire group, because you do have to remember that this was a decision made by the entire group, or that the decision is to be made.
Anyone else like to speak to this? Sheila?
I have other grounds on which I want to challenge your ruling, so should we vote on this one first and see how it passes, and then I will do this challenge on other grounds?
All you can speak to at this point is the ruling that I'm not allowing you to make bring this motion forward.
Okay, but it's based on Janice proposing two alternatives.
So we can speak to that later? Okay? So the vote here is to whether to sustain my ruling or not. That's the only thing that we can entertain here in discussion or vote on. So does anyone have any further things to say with respect to sustaining my ruling on this?
Maybe I should make my points now then.
Is it with respect to the ruling? Or
It is respect.
You need to explain why you think my ruling is incorrect.
I believe your ruling is incorrect because in our procedural bylaws, it says that where these rules, our bylaws, are silent or where not inconsistent with these rules, our rules, the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order shall apply. However, it turns out that Robert's rules are not consistent with our procedural bylaws. Robert's rules on reconsideration state that it is for matters that would be considered even within the same meeting. There is a time limitation. Our rules for reconsideration require 4 days' notice, and that 4 days' notice implies that it is not at the same time, and that the limitations of the reconsideration motion are not relevant. Furthermore, our policy 1002 allows that the public has a right to ask for the board to reconsider. The public certainly did not vote, and I believe that in our case, our rules do not require the person bringing forward, the board member in this case, or the public under that other policy, do not require the person to have voted on it. Because our rules are inherently inconsistent, Robert's rules do not apply to this. Secondly, I would like to point out that there is a past precedent established in this case. In 2007, September 27 meeting, you yourself served notice to the board to reconsider the K-8 configuration decision at the next board meeting. Because you didn't do it 4 days ahead of the meeting, it would be at the next one. It was the chair at the time. You did not support the decision that was going to be reconsidered. You were not on the prevailing side, but the chair at the time permitted you to proceed with that motion to reconsider in order that you could be heard, recognizing the importance of the democratic process. Your request to reconsider was taken up on October 23rd. So I believe, once again, the specifications in Robert's rules are not relevant because of what our policy says and because precedent here is quite clear. A third point is that Robert's rules themselves say that the Robert's Rules of Order should never be used in place of common sense. And I will quote further. They are therefore the fair and orderly meetings and conventions. They provide common rules and procedures for deliberation and debate in order to place the whole membership on the same footing, speaking the same language. Complementary, the business is controlled by the general will of the whole membership, and there is the right of the deliberate majority to decide. However, complementary is the right of at least a strong minority to require that the majority be deliberate and act according to its considered judgment after a full and fair working through of the issues involved. Robert's Rules provides for constructive democratic meetings to help, not hinder, the business of the Assembly. Under no circumstances should undue strictness be allowed to intimidate members or limit full participation. The fundamental right of deliberative assemblies require all questions to be thoroughly discussed before taking action.
I'm going to give you 1 minute.
On that basis, I am challenging your ruling. I do believe that Robert's Rules are not relevant. I believe that my request for reconsideration has been made according to our procedural bylaws, which must apply since Robert Rules are inconsistent. I believe there is past precedent, and I believe that there is considerable merit for the re-examination of these, and I would therefore hope for the rest of the group to vote against sustaining the chair's ruling. Thank you.
Okay, so anyone else wish to speak to this? Free?
Well, for me, I'm really in a quandary here. I find it interesting that you bring forward a motion for us to reconsider something you haven't even considered in the first place. So there's a disconnect there for me. It's something that the rest of us considered that you didn't even consider it. So how can you possibly reconsider it? I guess that's...
Public have that right.
Sure. I guess that's really where I stand.
Okay, anyone else? I just would like to have one person or one shot at speaking time, sir. Okay? So if, we'll take a vote on this now. So if you vote yes on this motion, let me get this straight in my head. If you vote yes on the chair challenge, that means that you, help me out, Len, if you're, thank you, help me out.
Shall the decision of the chair be sustained?
Okay, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? So if you vote yes, then you're saying that my decision and ruling on the stands. If you vote no, then you're saying that the decision should not be sustained and that the question regarding reconsideration can be put before the board. In the event of a tie on an appeal to the chair, the decision of the chair is sustained. Okay, so everyone clear on that? So if you vote yes, you're saying that the decision should be sustained. If you vote no, you're saying that the decision should be overturned. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. So now I would like to speak a little bit further on this, that in a democracy, even though someone's ability to bring forward a motion is precluded, they do have the ability to influence other members on the board. And so, as Tom alluded to before, with respect to the Band 7 decision, I would say that the prevailing side consisted of Janice, myself, and Fran. And so any of us are free to bring forward a motion to reconsider that item should we so choose. If we chose to do that, we would need to serve notice of motion in the proper way, and then it would be on the next board meeting agenda. Same thing with respect to the decisions respecting Cumberland Junior and Lake Trail, and so forth. The people that were on the prevailing side, as far as I can recall, were Fran, Corrine, Ben, myself, and Tom, I believe. And so any of us would also be free to bring that forward. The information, Sheila, that you put forward is here in the agenda package, and that could serve to influence us to bring forward a motion to reconsider. And that would be a further democratic way to have this readdressed. Does anyone have anything to say or comment on with respect to this? Corrine?
I'll actually comment on the motion of which I was on the prevailing side, and that was the reconfiguration of the trail in Cumberland. And I would never bring that motion forward, and I would strongly urge my colleagues not to either. Since Friday, I have had countless emails from the members of Cumberland community. The one that struck me most is, I cannot believe that we were going to be forced to reconsider this, to go to that place again. Many of them point out much of the same things that I agree with. We are really quite far down this road now. We've had timetabling done. We've done the staffing. Either one of those things are an easy thing to do. I don't know if the public really understands what goes into timetabling. It's a huge process that involves staff and the numbers of hours and commitment and juggling here and there and student numbers, and it's just such a huge process. And they've already had their grade 6, 7 meetings and got their ideas for what they want to take. They've all been scheduled in. The 9 to 10s have had meetings at Vanny. They're all excited about going. It is a decision that was made 6 months ago. It is a decision that I think needs to be put to bed. It's one that is now, again, having huge effects on morale, not only on the staff, but on the parents and the students out there who now fear that what they thought they were getting, they're no longer getting. And for me, it's just simply time to put that to bed and move this district forward. Period.
Thank you. Anyone else care to comment or ask a question?
May I speak for a moment?
Yeah.
I am saddened that having yourself received the courtesy of a ruling to allow you to do something that did not follow the rules, and that your interpretation has now overridden our own procedural bylaws and fallen to Robert's rules. I am quite saddened that you've made these rulings.
Sheila,
I do understand.
Robert's Rules of Order clearly say that a member should not criticize the decision of the chair of the body unless a motion is made to appeal that decision. I believe that you actually can move that the decision that we just made to appeal the board chair's decision, I believe you can bring forward a motion at this time for that to be reconsidered, and if that is your wish, you could do so now quite legally because you participated in the, oh no, you couldn't, actually, sorry, we're not at prevailing side. If someone feels that we
all right, I actually believe
they could do that.
I mean, we could go on this. I do believe that I can now move to rescind the motion regarding this. I don't believe that there are any constraints on who voted for or against, and there is no waiting period or time frame on a motion to rescind.
That is correct. I think if you check our board procedural bylaws that you're relying on, it states quite clearly in there that a motion to rescind will be made in exactly the same manner as a motion to reconsider, and I would request that you follow the board procedural bylaw.
So we follow the board procedural bylaw now, but we don't follow it in your ruling?
No, I'm following it all along. So if we could, Mr. Ibbs will assist you with that process, I hope. Fran, you have a quick question?
Just a comment. Before we go to this, there are some restrictions on what can be rescinded. And I think what we really need to go down is the underlying principles of the rules. Just clarify, I don't believe that there was an issue with respect to inconsistency between the board procedural bylaw and the board procedural bylaw allows the rules to kick in There's no issue in my interpretation of inconsistency or not. And the other comment that I would make in terms of it being applied improperly in the past, that's exactly sort of what I was thinking when I was reading this. That decision was applied. It was made improperly by the co-chair. And I don't believe that we need to repeat a mistake simply because of the citizens.
Not to your advantage.
So Sheila, my request to you is that, as you know, I participated in a very fractious board in the past board. It was very difficult for people. And so what I have tried to do, my principle here is that people should be able to bring forward anything that they would like as long as they meet the criteria that we've established, which is to provide a briefing note so everyone knows what you're bringing forward. It will be on the agenda as long as it's not something that's required to be in camera, that you should be allowed to state your case and that the board will decide. I feel strongly that in the past, I'm not sure that I can say that I was always treated fairly. So for me, it is about fairness. It is about protecting everyone's democratic rights, and that includes the board members who made decisions prior to you coming on the board, and also your ability to do something about your feelings now. I feel that I have done a good job of that. I've done some research, and I have let it out to the board to make to really take the decision from me and let the board make a decision as to whether they agree with my ruling, and they have. So that being said, I hope that we can work together in a fair way and that we don't go down the road that the last board did, and I'm certainly happy to work with you. I really am. Now we need to move on to correspondence. GP Vanier Secondary School PAC has sent us a couple of letters. There they are for your information. Again, just to add that we did take an opportunity to speak with Mr. McCrae and ministry officials regarding capital planning in the province. And also, I think maybe we should speak a little bit with respect to their letter about staffing and budgets. There's this sort of erroneous belief that there's a spare $300,000 floating around out there that could be had. Danny, do you want to maybe say
I was
something?
trying to interrupt you first, because I think we should be dealing with the first letter first.
Okay, sure. Well, they're just for board information. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, the question is basically we're going to restate the fact that our capital plan still remains Vanier being number one priority. And to this point, I have not heard any other decision or any other motion come forward.
No. So they are still number one in our capital plan, and that's certainly the school we asked about funding for. Thank you. So the staffing and the mysterious $300,000 floating around out there?
Well, I gather from what I got from watching the last board meeting, the $300,000 is not actually an additional $300,000, but I believe it was Mr. Gibson's best guesstimate as to what funding was going to be coming to us. We still have a structural deficit, which basically means that you're going to spend $300,000 that you haven't got, plus the fact that there's no ministry guidelines as yet. At least last I heard.
Today?
It came today.
Oh.
Okay. So there has not been ministry guidelines up to that point as to how the budgeting is going to happen.
So really there is no spare $300,000 kicking around to spend. Is that correct?
As we continue to work through the process, there are some things around staffing and decisions that will be after even the discussion we had a month ago. So at this time, I would say really that there is no further funding.
I think we support your work and working towards staffing our schools to make them as good as they can be. Sheila?
I'd actually like to thank Danny for making the very point about the approval of the of Band 7, that the $300,000 did not in fact exist, but it was the basis for allocating $100,000, and has given a mistaken impression to people in the Challenge Program, Vanier, and many other places that money was available. I noted with some concern that the last report we received from the Secretary-Treasurer also referred to projection of $350,000 deficit for this year, so that will further reduce our small operating surplus. Is that still...
I take your point, and probably we will have a discussion at some point.
Susan, I
with
don't
respect
think
to
I've had my
budget.
5 minutes on
No,
this
but
point, and
Sheila-
I wanted
Sheila,
to ask a couple
Sheila-
of questions.
Sheila, this is with respect to staffing at Vanier School.
Well, it is, and I have a question relating to the response to their letter and others in this package. Is there any likelihood in our funding that we will be able to consider some of the questions that Vanier and the other groups are raising relating to putting back some of the funds cut?
Well, first maybe, Jordan, could you speak to the staffing that Vanier has received? Did they receive any extra staffing for administration or teachers this year and so forth? And
to answer that specifically, but just to add that after the last meeting, and the support of the board was to go ahead and continue to staff our schools as we have in the past. We've done that throughout the spring, beginning of January, we do administration staff and this Thursday, positions, superintendent, to decide point times for next year.
As part of that process, the staff will have to talk about what the staff will do. At this point in time, we sat down with each individual school, and they discussed that, and we gave them additional staff, and they at this point, additional staff.
you got an extra 0.5 for administration. Len, when would you be able to give us an update with respect to where we are on the budget?
I would expect at the end of the month, at the end of May, we would be able to bring the budget. And then it's still be a month if you want to go ahead more review it later.
Does that answer your question?
Well, as a supplementary question, I'm just wondering whether you will be able to give us any suggestions, since the $100,000 approved for Band 7 is coming out of a non-existent $300,000, what additional cut will you be recommending to be made? Not angry at me.
I'll leave it to you then, to take this.
I mean, the whole premise of it, when we made our decisions back in January was on staff, because for lots of reasons, we can go through maybe after if you want. But once that's done, our ability to go back after that time is quite reduced. I think the board realized at the time we would end up not being able to adjust staffing. Any other staff cuts to make that up would probably be quite difficult to make, because the areas that non-staffing, which is quite small of our whole budget. So we are kind of really not completely hemmed in, but pretty close to hemmed in on being able to make any changes here. So, and I always work from the perspective of having a surplus, which we do have, and if some of the decisions that get made subsequent would affect how much we would have at the end of that year. So I'm talking now at the end of June 30th, 2011, right? So when we get to that point, it may be better or worse than what we sort of predicted when we built this preliminary budget. So I wouldn't consider, I guess one long way of saying I'm not suggesting that we would be another spot cut, unless the board really wanted to consider that and go back to the list and look for those items that are non-staffing. But there, if I remember right, there was not a lot on that list.
Anyone else have any comments or questions with regards to this item? Yes?
Actually, I have a question procedure regarding correspondence, and I might be out of line, but pardon me if I'm wrong here. My understanding when I received it, within letters for board information, that they were having a conversation and directing that, and I think that leads to the fact that, talking this letter, I understand the conversation, but we've got 1, 2, 3 number of letters on there, so clarification, Madam Chair. Correspondence, my understanding, is board information, same file referred to management. The conversation we're having should be at some other point. I'm just wondering if this is a new policy and procedure, because we can look at every single letter here, we could be here for the next little while. So it's something I'm just going to bring up for further discussion of governance.
Well, what you see there is our best guess that it would be board information under recommendation, and clearly trustees were not happy with the board recommendation and chose to ask questions and speak to it, which is everyone's right to do so. You could also make a motion, if you wish, to refer to management, as you know, as you have been able to do for a year and a half. You're not hampered in any way from doing that. Okay, we'll move over to the challenge program correspondence. Board information. Want a second? Anyone second? Okay. So a motion to acknowledge, receive, and file. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None carried. Thank you. Also, for board information, a letter from Kate Ramsey.
Stephen File, thanks for the sponsorship.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And we have a response from Mr. McDermott with regards to the letter that Janice prepared on behalf of the board. Thank you very much, Janice, for preparing the letter, and here's the response. For information. Item number 5 is a letter from someone with respect to the Montessori program. For information. And item number 6, you see a letter here from Denman Island parents with a recommendation to refer to management. A second. Any discussion on that? Okay. Okay.
Could I make a motion?
The motion is on the floor. The motion is to refer to management. What you could do is speak against it, repeat it, and do something different.
Referring to Montessori.
No, we've passed that one already. We're down to the Denman Island parents. Refer to management. Did you want to speak to that one?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. So, all in favor? Opposed? Not as carried. Thank you.
Can I make a motion about the other letter?
We've done that. Did you want to go back to
Well, I'd
back
like
to the
to,
Montessori program letter?
I'd like to make a motion that we refer the requests coming from Vanier, the challenge program, and the Montessori letter to the senior management for recommendations whether any of these should be included in the budget, or whether they are priorities ranking with Band 7, and
Yes.
whether money is forthcoming for them.
We've already passed a motion with respect to the challenge program. Did we make a motion with respect to Vanier? That was for board information. No motion.
No, it's a completely separate motion from both motions.
Glenn, look for some help from you on this one.
I would suggest maybe that any motion, if the trustee wishes to bring forth a motion. I thought that was
Okay. Go ahead, Sheila.
Well, I would move that we ask for, that we refer them to senior management for comment on whether these items have a priority in student achievement and should be incorporated into the budget.
Which items?
Additional funding to support staffing, the challenge program request, and the Montessori.
So, sorry, I'm sorry, which letter, is there any of the Vanier letters that you want to refer to management?
Well, I think their concerns relating to the cuts to differentiate.
Sorry, so if we're just going to try to craft a motion here, which letters do you want referred to management?
I want the issues that have been raised from them referred to management.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay.
So refer to, what do you call there, Debbie, so far?
Well, I'm not sure which issues are coming.
The issues would be, in the process of developing this budget, and in response to the information we've received, that we ask senior management to identify the priorities and the possibilities of funding for differentiated staffing. It would include Vanier and other schools like Port Neal, the Montessori program, and the Challenge, which have previously been cut.
What do you need, Debbie? Could I just ask that you write out your motion?
Okay.
That would help me.
Exactly. We talked about this.
All I have is items that have priority and student achievement and incorporated into the budget, but I'm not sure which ones you're referring to.
Okay, Ellen has something here?
Sorry, this goes against what I said before. I think maybe this, if we refer to these, we name the letters for the finance committee for consideration. And I think that might be simply easier.
Fine.
Okay, so refer which letters to finance?
Vanier letter regarding their concerns about differentiated staffing.
So which letter?
Page 45.
Page 45.
Page 46 and 7.
Page 47, and page 52.
Okay, so the motion is to refer the letters at page 45, 46, 47, and 52 to finance?
I'll second that with the date.
For what purpose? Can you just define that a little bit?
Well, we have now received a funding letter.
Just to try to put something in the motion with a
The referral to see whether they have significant priority in student achievement and
to see whether they have
Are-
significant priority in student achievement
and should be recommended for inclusion in our budget.
and should be recommended for inclusion in our 2010-11 budget?
I'm actually not sure if the finance committee is the right place because I feel that that evaluation comes more appropriately from senior
Okay, so
management.
maybe if we speak to this motion, we can clarify that a bit. So, I believe that Sheila moved and Janice seconded that we refer to Finance Committee the letters at page 45, 46, 47, and 52 to see whether they have significant priority in student achievement and should be recommended for inclusion in our budget. Is a motion that I believe is on the floor and has been seconded. Do you want to speak to that? Okay, just a minute. You have to make this quick because we need to shut the meeting down here pretty quick,
Yes.
okay?
Well, I feel that we are now receiving a number of letters coming forward, and I don't feel competent to judge whether they have merit equivalent to Band 7, but I think that they might. There are cogent arguments. I believe that we should be looking at our decisions through the lens of how they contribute to student achievement. There may or may not be additional funds available, and I would like that to be taken into account. I hate the idea that one group advocating for a program has been successful and the others are shut out without consideration.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? Okay, I'll speak to it. I'm not going to support the motion. I think that this work has been substantially done already. It's management's work to work with the staffing at all of the schools, and we, I think, have reiterated that through our finance committee last month, that we trust them to do that work and that we should stay out of it. So I don't think it needs to go to finance. I know that Mr. Douglas works darn hard with respect to the Montessori folks and does his very best to help them find teachers and make that program work. So I don't see a need for the board to have any involvement with respect to that at all. I trust that they'll do their work with respect to the weather camera and what else have we got on here? The challenge program, we have gotten substantial information from senior staff already. The board needs to now decide whether we're going to reconsider our budget decision, and we'll do that at the next meeting. So I find that this is completely redundant, so I can't support it. Janice?
I can't support the motion, but I will explain that I believe that every trustee has the right to bring a motion forward. So I will second that motion because I believe every trustee has the right to talk. So, but I can't support the motion. I believe that the finance committee is not the right spot, and I believe the senior management team has got the ongoing work on the budget, and will continue to work on evolving over the next little while. And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor, do you want me to read it back? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? And that is defeated. Thank you. So, questions, inquiries for the public? Well, in the board's indulgence, limit it to just a few minutes before someone might make a motion to either adjourn or extend the meeting. Do we have any questions from the public, Shelley?
You chose to implement N because I think the attorney is was there was wiggle room with this 300,000, and you're wondering why people are thinking you stand about. At the last meeting, it was clearly stated that there was this 300,000 extra, so that's why you implemented that. You did it with very little information, and we've had other things that have come to this board, and they've had lots of information, and somebody will say, oh, I can't vote, I don't have enough information. There was very little information on Band 7. When you're cutting things like curriculum support teachers and challenges and looking at more money, you haven't finished programming for high schools. I think programming for high schools and preparing kids for their future, I think that is really, really important.
Do you have a question there, Shelley?
You always talk about consultation, and you consult with grade 7 teachers or all teachers for that matter. I'm expecting down $100,000. Maybe it's not a lot of money, but it could ease some problems for curriculum support and things that support a lot of kids. Having a minimum number of 12, how many high school courses would you run with 12 kids in a class? I think that number is far too low to say, yay, let's do this.
I'm taking that as feedback. Thank you for your feedback. Anyone else have a question they would like to pose? Ellie?
I have concern about the BC position that you sent on the weekend. Watching an excerpt from the town news where Commissioner McDermott commented that she had to begin with paying these taxes, school taxes, and your response spoke to that was, I am doing the opposite. I'm not sure where she's getting her information from. I know that I have personally spoken to people in the Comox Valley who support additional taxes. I'm just wondering, given the fact that the student population is declining, we're having concerns with our hospital shutting down rooms and laying off nurses, I was wondering where you're getting this information from. I spent some time down in Brian LA's office to see if comments have gone through MLA to the legislature or to the Ministry of Education, and have been. And so I'm just wondering who you've spoken with. Being part of DPAC, it was never a topic that was brought up at all. So as far as people who directly would be concerned with education would be parents, I haven't heard it through DPAC or DPAC. Just wondering where you are sourcing these opinions and how you feel you can be making a comment.
Well, first of all, I regret that they didn't get my name right on the news clip. That being said, you may know that in my professional life, I have a full-time job working as a social worker for the Vancouver Island Health Authority. And in that capacity, I come into contact with many clients and co-workers who share that view that they would support an increase in taxes to help with health care. Similarly, I come into contact with many people. People know who I am, the pictures in the paper, and we do get into discussions from time to time about things like taxes. And I have had that from several people as well, with my school board hat. So, many places.
So that warrants making a statement on TV about reference to Comox Valley wishing to have the tax increase.
My opinion was different than the minister's, and I expressed that when asked. Anyone else have a question, or? Shanna?
These people that have come forward, I was wondering, have they offered to give you an explanation for the school district
or anything for those who increase taxes? Is there a way that they could possibly donate to the schools or?
My understanding is that it's a publicly funded institution and it's not a charitable donation, so, there you go. So,
Motion to adjourn.
yeah. Okay, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you.